Marco Sanfilippo's 3 wins in 4 races tells you a lot of what you need to know about the start of this season. A change-in of the guard appears to be taking place at the sharp end of the field. Let's see if he can keep bringing the fight to Courtenay as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Our first 4 visits to the UK this season is Donington Park. Let's get a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Donington Park. This British track can boast the rare feat of hosting Grand Prix racing since before the advent of the modern F1 Championship. About a half-hour northeast of Birmingham, cars and bikes of many types have competed here. There are 2 layouts that can be driven: the Grand Prix version, which is roughly 2.5 miles, or the National Circuit, which is just under 2 miles. The only difference between them is the addition of the Melbourne and Goddard's hairpins at the end of the lap. This circuit is known for its fast, sweeping bends and difficulty in overtaking. There's also some extremely tricky blind apexes like at McLean's and Coppice. Ironically, one of the most famous and more difficult high-speed turns is called the Old Hairpin. Resembling nothing of its name, it includes a frustrating kinked entry and a very critical corner exit that leads to a long piece of uphill acceleration. The first turn of Redgate is a popular place for overtakes, but it carries an unusual danger. The pit exit empties right into the racing line, and if stops are expected during the race, it can prompt some treacherous exchanges. While the circuit is most well known for its extremely wet 1993 European Grand Prix, where Ayrton Senna blitzed the field for a win, currently the track is mainly used for lower-level open-wheelers and touring car racing. Overwhelmingly popular with British fans, Donington Park has established itself as a pivotal circuit in the UK racing scene. So it's going to be a very fast track. It'll slow down at the end, Joey, but it's going to make it tough to try and pass on the first half.
12 turns, 2.498 miles to be exact, or 4.02 kilometers here at Donington Park Racing Circuit. And it's definitely an old school racing place. And turns 1 and 2, surprisingly fast. Turn 4 down there, known as the Old Hairpin, is actually a decent little passing opportunity if you can get the run down the hill. But I look towards Sector 3. Up at the top of the track map, the Fogarty S's, known as 9 and 10, and then also the Melbourne Hairpin down there, turn 11. Don't forget about the final turn, turn 12. And the reason why I mention these is with these Lotus 79 machines, they're all about downforce. Those are the slowest corners here on this racetrack. You actually have to tiptoe around and be very, very careful with the pedal inputs around those slow corners.
Especially in these Lotus 79s that are made for that high-speed changes of direction. Now, as we take a look at the championship, like I said, change of direction in that as well compared to previous seasons was Marco Sanfilippo, currently leading the points over Topi Courtenay, and it's by 85 points. That is literally a win's worth if you have a perfect race out here. Danilo Sanfilippo is the one trying to chase him down. Not quite as quick as his brother, but certainly sitting third in the point shows that the talent runs in the family here. AJ Roper doing an impressive job in the top 5 in the points, running 4th right now ahead of Dylan Freckleton. And Jason Clapper, Mr. Come From the Back himself there, has put himself into 6th position so far this season. But it's early. Things could easily change around. And they also hold an amateur championship, Joey, with our F2 driver standings.
Exactly. The same car, just a different I rating over here. And it's John Stevens currently leading the way with 155 points. Got a healthy gap back to Daniel Gallus back here, 37 points. But then you see it really tightens up. Thomas Silbernagel only 4 points behind Daniel there, chasing down 2nd place. You also have Thomas Bartfy in 4th place, Kurt Clapper in 5th, Jason Krakowiak here in 6th place, Ben Summers, Keith Herner, Byron Long, and Robert Simpkins. Look at those last 3 there in 8th, 9th, and 10th. Only 2 points separating those 3 drivers.
They also run a teams championship in this series, and it's kind of as you would expect with Danilo and Marco on a team. Well, they're leading the way by a huge margin up at the front. Alfa Romeo giving chase with Jean-Francois Boscus and John Stevens, and there Minardi also trying to hold on to them, but it finally closes up from that third place team on down. Dylan Freckleton with a solo effort doing an impressive job there for TVR to put his team into fourth. But really, the story of it has been everybody's trying to catch the Sanfilippo brothers up at the front of the field. And they're going to get only so many laps around here to try and do it, Joey. So why don't you tell us what we're in store for?
Thankfully, Donington is pretty quick, so we got a decent number of laps, but we're on round 5 of 12, just shy of halfway through the season here. 29 laps, so yeah, you're going to be going around this place quite a few times. Open setup is always, so tweak and tune on that car. Make sure each track that you go to, it's handling just as nicely as you want it to. No spare car, so if you pick up any damage, you got to deal with it out there. Drive-through penalty at 17 incident points. Disqualification at 25 incident points. The great thing about Donington Park here is there is tons of runoff. So if you do go off track, just keep the car pointed straight, slow the thing down, don't pick up any damage on the underside of the car, and you can get it back on track.
A very, very foggy day out here, which at the UK, that's not really that great of a surprise. Only 69 Fahrenheit on the track surface. A little bit of wind, surprisingly, even with the fog that they've got out there. Hopefully that'll blow it away somewhat. And I just watched, we had a change for the front row as Andreas Henkel has now joined Jacob Reed up there. And Topi Kortaniemi only sitting in third. Dylan Freckleton. Wow. Okay. Both laps for the TVR driver have been deleted. He is going to have to come from, at best, 22nd position.
It's always tough when you get those incident points in qualifying and it essentially just disallows your lap time. You see Dylan keep doing laps out here. I think this is the smart thing. He knows that those laps were disallowed and get a little bit more practice time. And as I say that, brings the car to a stop. I think that's pretty much going to be everybody putting down their qualifying effort.
It is indeed. We have a top split this time as a number of 48 drivers have joined us for today's race. So pretty stacked fields, over 4,000 average iRating among the drivers. It is incredibly talented. We're expecting it's going to be a difficult fight. The lowest numbered iRating driver has, I think, about 2,900 to 3,000, which is still higher than my iRating. So I wouldn't have even made top split out of 2 on this one. And we wait for the last of the seconds to tick down. But what strikes me is Sanfilippo. You were talking to me before the broadcast, Joey, that Marco was quickest of anybody back at Spa, but he's only 4th fastest in Q today.
It is very similar to what we saw the last couple weeks where Topi is actually faster in qualifying, but the race always brings out a different story. Remember that open setup. It's not a fixed setup over here, so you can have a different car for qualifying versus the race. And I think that's a huge talking point, especially when it comes down to collecting those checkered flags. You can pack on the downforce, pack on the grip in qualifying, but it ultimately comes down to who can get to that checkered flag, that start-finish line first after 29 laps here at Donington today.
Which they're going to be starting soon because that clock is now hitting 0, and our 24 cars that are going to take part in this will start to line up on the grid. And at the top of them is going to be Mr. Jacob Reed, coming in from a black stripe over in the Dallara series a little bit earlier on in iRacing's history. And Andreas Henkel is going to try and give him a run for his money. Topi Kortaniemi will be starting in the 3rd position, and Marco Sanfilippo, as we said, starting P4. Toga Hisada hops on over from the older Lotuses into the 79, starting in 5th, with Brandon Roseborough in a 6th position. Gernot Friesche only qualifying 7th. That hasn't really been his strong suit, so expect him to race a little better. Patrick Samaran in 8th, and Andrew Petty in P9. Then Nathan Finnegan rounding out your top 10.
In 11th, we've got Josh Brain in the number 18. Xavier Sanchez may be looking for a little bit of a better race than his qualifying, starts in 12th. Danilo Sanfilippo also looking to move up the order. He starts in 13th. Mickey Freeze in 14th. The Big Cat, Barry West in 15th. Jean-Francois Boscus, 16th. Daniel Gallus, 17th. Jack Kent in 18th. Tony Dibden in 19th. And Gerard Borrell in 20th.
Guillermo Diaz will be starting 21st with Dylan Freckleton in 22nd. Then it's Jason Clapper and Philip Urquhart. The last two on the field, our final three, unable to set qualifying times for this one. It's a very short run into the first corner here at Redgate. So we'll often see cars still very, very stacked up with one another into there. Here we go. As it looks like we've just about got everybody on the grid. I think we're waiting on Nathan Finnegan at this stage down there in 10th spot to get us the green flag for the start of this event.
Joe, real fast, I didn't even notice Togo Hisada slipped his way in here. We usually see him in the 49s, but here he is qualified in the top 5.
He seems to be very good about making that transition between these two extremely different cars. And I expect him to be a real thorn in the side of some of the regulars up at the front of this field. As we're now ready to go. The lights are up, the engines are revving, and the green flag is out. Off the line, where is Andreas Hankel? He is absolutely just bogging down. And already Sanfilippo is going to overtake him for that third spot, almost 3 wide into the first corner, battling for that 5th spot. But everybody keeps it on the pavement.
Yeah, and single file for the top 4, and then it's Togo Hisada on the outside here. He's trying to overtake for what is 5th place, but Brandon Roseborough in that black and yellow car is able to edge ahead, and now it's Hankel and Marco Sanfilippo arguing over that 3rd place. Looks like Togo and also Brandon are yet to be decided, and 1 car off into the gravel. That's Andrew Petty.
Already we're getting problems at a track where the speeds are going to be tremendously high. I think he may have kept it out of the barriers, but we'll check on that a little bit later to find out if, in fact, he did. So Jacob Reed continues to lead down to the braking as they hit the newer-ish part of the circuit through the Fogarty S's and into the Melbourne hairpin. This is where we expect to see most of the passes.
Yeah, this is definitely the biggest and best braking zone as Xavier Sanchez looks to the inside of 11th place here. He's going to try to get that pass done on Josh Brain. Look at them all scatter throughout this first hairpin. A couple little lockups, and you got to be so careful on the opening lap. Tiptoe through with those cold tires.
Yeah, Danilo Sanfilippo in there. Thankfully, was given way as he almost ran into the side of Nathan Finnegan, but kind of rudely shoved him off the racing line down into the hairpin, as they now hit Redgate once again, this time at full tilt. And it is Reed leading Cortinemi, leading Hankel. Marco Sanfilippo, our points leader, held that 3rd spot only briefly as we check in on his brother in the 10.
Danilo's had a great opening lap, up 4 positions, but you see Finnegan in that yellow car directly behind as we head down into this section of 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then back up into the hill here. I believe this is turn 6 and 7 of McLean's. Danilo doing a good job to get the corner exit right there. Try to stretch his legs out over Nathan Finnegan. He was definitely down the order in terms of qualifying, doing a nice job in the early part of the race.
All right, we've got a replay for Petty. Oh, he gets into the back of the 8. Or no, the 8 gets into the back of him. Excuse me. Just about launches him 4 wheels in the air, and that's going to be hard to stop the car from there. It looks like maybe if he did hit the wall, it was just a bit of a brush and eventually gets it back on. Tony Dibden down here in the 16th position, kind of in a melee of cars, being attacked by Boscus, who's also got Dylan Freckleton trying to work his way through for his lack of qualifying times. He's going to get 1 spot there, having to just argy-bargy his way into that position.
Yeah, it kind of split those Marlboro-themed cars, and that purple-themed Lotus 79, that is Dylan Freckleton. Remember in qualifying, we said he didn't put down either lap, and he's typically up there inside of the top 10 as we jump a little bit forward here. This is Josh Brain in 13th place. Looks like we got more problems. That's Nathan Finnegan, Patrick Samaran falling down through the order.
Finnegan's been having a rough time out there. He winds up off the circuit, missing a tire. I don't think he's aware that it's gone. He's trying to get it going, but you're not going very far, bud. As we come back to Boscus once again, along with what it looks like might be his teammate, although this is a popular paint on this car, so Gerard Bourrell might not be actually working together with that fellow Marlboro liveried machine. Bit of a defense from Jean-Francois down to the chicane.
It's late on the brakes from Boscus right there, but the corner exit actually goes to Bourrell. See if Gerard is able to, yes, he's late on the brakes right there in front. He's actually able to make the pass. Check out Dylan Freckleton, had a huge lockup, and oh no, that was Danilo Sanfilippo. I completely missed that, but he had a problem in that turn 11 hairpin, was spun around, went all the way to the back pretty much.
Well, I think his racing kind of caught up to him, because I went back and checked. He was involved in what took out Finnegan as well as another car. I think it was Samaran.
Oh,
and that was Dipton? No, that was Freckleton, who finds himself off the circuit with a number of other cars. It is an absolute parking lot on the outside of the corner, and Dipton able to get back onto the track along with that purple TVR.
You called it right. It was Dibden as well as Freckleton, kind of similar to the story you were just talking about with Danilo with Dylan, right? Freckleton, and look at this. Gallus so aggressive with the 21 of Patrick Samaran. The 21's already been involved in a few incidents already, so you know he's willing to get the elbows out. Let's take a look at this GSRC replay. See exactly what happened to Danilo and Finnegan. There's Samaran. Oh, just closed the door on Danilo, and then Danilo also made contact with Nathan Finnegan out there. So the aggression coming out early in Donington, and it's biting back on the competitors.
And problems there for Samaran, who cut the course, while Jason Clapper ahead, making a move on Jean-Francois Boscus. Things are getting to be a bit rough here at the back of the field. Sanfilippo winds up in the gravel.
Yeah, Patrick Samaran is just a wrecking ball here in the first opening couple laps. Just completely took out Danilo Sanfilippo there in that turn 11 hairpin. Not sure if he missed the braking marker, but unfortunately went right into the back.
Yeah, I'm not going to make a comment on that one, because they've now been involved in one another twice within a lap. So it's not looking good between them, or whether or not there's any sort of friendship soured. Tony Dipton, in the meantime, in 21st, is still out there running. So here's Danilo Sanfilippo, who cuts the course by accident.
Samaran cut the course.
Excuse me. Yes, you're right. Samaran cut the course. Now, it could be that he wasn't the speed he's used to, was trying to brake later, and that's what put him in the back of him. So I don't want to imply that he intentionally ran into him, but clearly, there is no love lost.
No, there's not, and I do see that looks like they're both actually on the racetrack, still going. It kind of goes to my point of there's plenty of runoff here. Even if you do make a little bit of contact, as Xavier Sanchez continues his march up through the field, passes the big cat Barry West for 8th. If you can kind of escape an incident and drive off the racetrack, you can get it back on the track safely.
Oh, they're going to bang wheels down into the final hairpin. Sanchez on the outside, and West will get that spot back. Barry up 7 now. Sanchez up 3. Both have done an impressive job, but Sanchez is going to try and get this one back as Heike 360, as he likes to be known online, is going to sneak through, but fighting back once again. Barry West trying to keep his nose in, coming down through the Craner curves, and he's not going to be able to do it as they hit the old hairpin.
I think through that section now, Sanchez was able to secure the pass, but Barry West has Mickey Friesen closing up in the slipstream, was able to kind of stall his momentum a little bit. But I agree with you, Joe. I think that Barry's having a fantastic run so far. Even though he just got passed by Sanchez, he's still up +6 positions. Mickey's having a great run as well, up 4. Jack Kent, this whole train right here is up several positions.
I'd put some of this on some of the craziness we've been seeing up and down the field at the start of this race. This is a lot more rough and tumble than we're used to seeing, even though it's usually fierce fighting. Brandon Roseborough here in 6th position is actually exactly where he started off. In fact, I'm looking up and down the field. We've only had in the top 7 2 positions changed. Cortiniemi and Henkel have swapped spots when we weren't looking.
It has been relatively single file up front. You're right. About 3/4 of a second separating first and second, and then about a half second separating second and third, and a little bit of a gap back there between the rest of the field. So I think we haven't even approached halfway yet. I'm not going to jump to any conclusions about these front 3 or Jacob Reed being able to run off into the distance, because we still have a lot of tire wear left. We've got fuel burn left, and that means the car is going to act completely different at lap 15, lap 20, lap 25. So it's going to be a moving target for all of these drivers.
We can see Mickey Friesen there. He's seeing whether or not he can chase down Barry West, but he's dealing with Jack Kent there behind him, who's putting the pressure on, and what looks like a very chrome and orange liveried vehicle. He's also got Josh Brain in behind him. Used to seeing Josh Brain in slower open wheelers, usually races in the Skip Barbers, but not doing too badly here, running 12th in this field.
Almost looks like he's got a crash test dummy driving suit on right now, which is quite amusing as he does a little power slide out of the corner there, but he's doing a terrific job. I had made the comment that I think this 4-pack that we're watching on screen right now, I think they've got good pace. Let's check out their last lap time. Let's see here. Jack does a 1:19.461 that last lap, so he's right on pace. Yeah, right about the top 10, kind of sitting where he should be.
And I also want to give a nod to Mickey Friesen putting the Nissan GTP livery on the Lotus. That is a great little nod to their other vintage series here on iRacing. So Jason Clapper, who, as we said, usually doesn't qualify and tries to climb from the back of the field. His next target is Boskus, and he's sticking close to him, but hasn't been able to do much at this stage. They're starting to approach that group of cars, so that may open up opportunities.
So back to that Nissan GTP livery as Jason Clapper gets around Boskus there. Nice easy pass. I think Jean-Francois realized he was a little bit faster. Joe, I remember doing an IMSA vintage race maybe last year at April Fools, where all of the Audis painted themselves as Nissan GTPs, and it confused the heck out of
me. We're simple people up here in the commentary booth. You can't be too mean to us as we watch Jack on the defense now. As he's gotten by Mickey Friesen, but things tightening up like an accordion up through Goddard's. Somebody's going to try and take a stab at some point if they stay this close.
Let's see the run through turn number 1 here. Jack is actually able to exit out of there, escape nice and easy. So Mickey's going to have to look down the hill here into this, call it old hairpin. It doesn't look very much like a hairpin, but that is what it's called. Call it the most compression, the highest load forces on this racetrack through that section right there. The cars are traveling the fastest, and you're asking the most out of the tires. So really have to be on your P's and Q's as some more action a little bit further back. Remember Dylan Freckleton, he's still trying to recover. He's had a couple extracurricular activities as looks like Borrell gets around Daniel Gallus. Dylan Freckleton will be the next one up.
He's got a little bit better momentum, it looks like, but Gallus is going to guard the inside initially. Now he comes back to the racing line. Freckleton shows himself in the mirrors, but decides not to try and execute down into the Fogarty S's. A little bit farther forward. Oh, and they come together. Josh Brain picks them both up, says, I'll take 2 spots in 1, thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of cars being involved. I think it was because it was right at the back of that 4-pack that was really making their way through the field. I saw Jason Clapper was involved. Josh Brain was involved. So even though the cars are spread out, you can cause a big one.
Something seems to have happened with Barry West as well. Oh, he got T-boned by Jack Kent. So there were 2 different incidents at that one hairpin at the same time, just kind of all coming together at once. Diaz, whose name is unfortunately broken in our graphics here, is sitting in 12th. Not doing too shabby considering he started in 21st.
So let's look at this 2-part accident here. So here's Clapper up the inside, makes contact with, I believe that's Mickey Friesen, and just about 10 yards up the road, just off screen to our right, was that Jack Kent-Barry West incident. So what had happened is Barry West just got on the throttle a little bit too aggressively, half spun the car. Jack was already at corner exit and really had nowhere to go, just kind of plopped right into the side of him.
Josh Brain now trying to come back and see if he can at least get by Jack Kent. He's got him in his sights, not able to try and dive it in down into Melbourne. He doesn't need to. It's too late of a dive for Jack, and he's going to go wide, but he's now got the inside up into Goddard's. Will this allow him to hold on to the position? He's missing part of his front wing, and despite that, he finds the braking. Now Josh Brain was vulnerable. That is going to be Diaz going to try and pick his pocket as they come down the main straight, but a much better exit for Josh Brain will allow him to hold him off, and things are just trickling backwards as they go. Borel spies an opportunity, can't make it stick though.
Yeah, all three, call it four of these cars with the purple caboose on the back end as well. Now Borel's really getting aggressive down to the inside. I thought that he was going to force the issue, but it's actually going to cost him just a touch on that corner exit. I'm happy you were able to point out that Jack Ken is missing that half a front wing, call it that front right wing element. That's definitely going to affect him in certain sections of this racetrack. Not necessarily everywhere. I think the final sector, sector 3, he will be okay. It's more mechanical grip, but the first half of this racetrack, he's going to be struggling with understeer.
All right, let's watch and see here on the second half as they come back into this section once again. Josh Brain still right with him. Do love the old Little Al Valvoline livery that he's rocking on that one. As an IndyCar fan from the 90s, I very much appreciate that. Not able to do him any good there. Diving back and forth behind them. You could just see a battle forming between Borel and Dylan Freckleton. Freckleton tries to go around the outside of Goddard's, but it doesn't get him the position. Defensive move from Gerard coming down the main straight, then opens up the door a little bit, tries to shut it a little too late, and the TVR machine almost gets by, can't get it done.
Gerard was able to go to the throttle, but can Dylan hang tough around the outside going down the hill? If you have good commitment, this puts you on the inside. Yes, he does get the pass on Borel there for what is 13th place, and now Gerard is under attack from Daniel Gallus immediately. Daniel's going to have the inside run up here. He is also going to, but look at Gerard with the over-under. Some savvy racecraft right there from the number 20 is able to defend that position.
I mean, this has been brilliant stuff between his racing with Freckleton at the start of the lap and now back and forth with Gallus. He's got to watch out for Andrew Petty. He's coming up behind in the mirrors. They go through the chicane, and it's a decent exit from Gallus, but not good enough. Gerard will keep him at arm's length.
Dylan Freckleton, you see the smoke on the screen there? That's because Freckleton had a huge lockup. Gallus a little bit wide himself there, kind of allowed Andrew Petty to close in the gap just a touch. So I'm really looking all the way from Jean-Francois Boscus, who's currently in 9th place, to these cars that we were watching back in, call it 16th, 17th place. That's 7 or 8 cars all in a line.
So jumping up to Topi Kortaniemi, things are closing in on the lead. Jacob Reed only has about 0.2 to 0.3 of a second gap back to the number 2. He's going to have his work cut out for him. Topi is a real master in this car from what we've seen in the past. They're going to be given space by the lapped car of Patrick Samaran, not wanting to interrupt this battle, but Topi's got to watch out. With Andreas right behind him, he's got to be careful not to leave himself open to attack.
It's an interesting mix of drivers here in the top 3 because Jacob Reed is extremely good in the open wheel cars. However, we typically see him more in the modern open wheelers. He was part of that Dallara IR01 series with iRacing. Topi Kortaniemi, he is very familiar with these Lotus 79. So I also wonder if it's just kind of the understanding of the equipment and how it falls off. If Jacob Reed is just blistering fast, but he doesn't necessarily know the Lotus 79 as well as the competitors, if that is maybe what's drawn up and closed them all towards the lead.
We see a lot of those drivers drawn to this series from the Pro Open Wheel Series. Jacob Reed rocking an 8,200 I rating out there, if that gives you an idea. And it just occurred to me, Joey, but I kind of wonder if we often see them as there's a big look from Topi Kortaniemi. Couldn't quite get the pass done. But I wonder if the reason we see so many of them show up here is this is such a raw, pure car. I'm not going to get this point out because now Andreas Henkel's trying to make the move. But I mean, there's no electronics here. It's a 5-speed gearbox with an H-pattern shifter, and it's high downforce. I mean, this is exactly what so many open-wheel drivers have said they wanted.
I think when we look at these cars, they have the perfect recipe for fun on paper. They might not fit on every single track perfectly, but I agree with you, Joe. No traction control, no ABS, no power steering. It is all up to the driver and understanding that machine. And they're very visceral machines, right? You can power slide them, you can lock up the brakes. So you really get that driving factor, that smile per corner factor, if you will. And yes, I think that's why we have so many of these open wheel, call it pros, come in here and race. I do feel like there's maybe a little bit improvement to go with just how the car feels overall, and that might bring in even more people here into this group.
Look forward to that day as Andreas Henkel stays glued to the rear of Topi Kortiniemi. Should Topi try and make a move, he's going to try and stick his nose in there, no doubt. They'll come down to the slightly downhill braking of the Melbourne hairpin, and once again, big look from Topi Kortiniemi. He just can't seem to get the overlap that he needs, but he's poking and prodding now. He's trying to get into the head of Jacob.
You see how late the apex was there from our leader. He gave up the first half of the corner just to focus on putting the power down, coming out onto that front straightaway. It's been very interesting kind of watching the different camera views from these top three, because I think that each one of the drivers is actually a little bit faster in different areas of the racetrack, which is why we see them kind of trip over each other every once in a while.
As you may have seen up at the top of the screen there, Togo Asada taking the fastest lap of the race. We're going to see that swap around here in the latter half of the race as these cars do get faster as the fuel burns off. But Marco's nowhere near this front group, despite being the quickest car last time out in the race. He's down in fourth at about 3 seconds back.
What kind of slipstream power there is here. This is that area that Topi was really close to Jacob Reed. I believe it was the previous lap, and showed the nose a little bit. They're all kind of equal distant apart. This area right here is where Andreas, the car that we're riding with, has been so strong. He's crazy deep on the brakes, is able to nail that late apex, and then this final hairpin, turn number 12, I felt like Jacob Reed is able to just drive it in so deep. And once again, Andreas with a crazy late apex, just trying to focus on that corner exit.
He's probably dealing with so much of that dirty air. He's got to try and get that throttle down as soon as possible to have any hope. Henkel setting the fastest lap of the race himself now at a 17.132, just a couple hundredths quicker than Jacob Reed. And oh no, Josh Brain is missing one of the wheels on his wagon. This is at the chicane, while Andrew Petty is going to try and take a spot just beyond him.
I think this is Daniel Gallus. Almost contact between the two coming off of the corner. So Andrew Petty is on the outside here. He's in the white and blue Rothmans theme, while Daniel Gallus is in that JPS, that black and gold number 23 here. Got a nice run down the front straightaway, so it doesn't have to worry about anything into turn number 1. See about the exit here. Nice job hitting the marks from both of those drivers, under no threat as they go down the hill.
Oof, Andreas Henkel's finally going for it, and he makes it stick from a long ways back. He gets P2 off of Topi Kortiniemi. Now that he is behind Reed, will we see a change in this battle? Can he do what Topi could not?
I love being Miss Cleo, and that was exactly where he was so strong. Let's take a look at what happened to Josh Brain here in the number 18. This is coming up. Oh, just got it wrong going into that little turn 9-10 S section, and looked like it hooked left onto him.
Yeah, sometimes you're so on edge with these cars, it can be hard to manage just those tiny little bobbles, and they wind up catastrophic. Barry West, who's definitely been off the track a couple times in this race and is, I think, missing his right side pod, it looks like, is challenging Philip Urquhart. This is for 18th position right now.
Yeah, it just seems like the Lion has been in a little bit of a scrap. Got some of the mane missing off of the right side. You're right, completely missing that whole right side of the car. I see the radiator, I see the exhaust headers, everything is poking out over there as Andreas Henkel now has a new target in front of him. That's Jacob Reed. This is the section of the racetrack that he's just been so good on the brakes. And you see Topi even lock it up there behind Andreas, trying to take it as deep as that number 4 car can.
Maybe he could try and take this lead away. Jacob Reed definitely seems to be struggling to shake them. I can't tell if they're legitimately faster than them or if it is the slipstream that's kind of helping them hold on to the back of him here. Whatever the case, it's been very much a stalemate between these top three until about a lap ago when Andreas made that dive and finally shook things up. One thing we should point out is that's where Hankel qualified. So on one lap pace, theoretically, he's back where he should be.
And you talk about a stalemate, Joe. Now, the viewers can't see this, but we have live timing and scoring behind the scenes here that we're watching. And the best lap, the fastest lap from our top two drivers is identical down to the thousandth, a 1:17.132. So when you talk about evenly matched competitors as Freckleton gets around Jean-Francois Boscus, it can't be more even between our top two.
This has been an impressive drive from Dylan. He's up 12 from where he started. Granted, he didn't set a qualifying time. But remember, he's been off the circuit today.
Oh, yeah.
And yet he's still made up this many spots. You have to wonder, if he had a perfect, clean race, how high would he be?
I think that he's been off the track more than just once. I think it's been a few times that purple car has been off of the racetrack. So you're right. He's had a good redemption run. And unfortunately, now he's looking at, is that 18 seconds that I see up the road? So he's got a little bit more work to cut out once he gets by Jack Kent there.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to try and overtake anybody. It's been a lot more clean farther up the road at the sharp end of the field. I mentioned it earlier, a little bit messy here at the back of the field, as Barry's car illustrates by its current condition. Back to our top runners. Hankel, a bit of a bad run. Topi Kortsanimi could try and get aggressive coming up through Coppice, but he decides not to.
It's been, in my opinion, Joe, maybe a little bit of a long-winded race over here, but in the final 10 laps, it seems like the top three have started to close it in. And I think that Jacob Reed is actually holding up Andreas Hankel in the second place. This is Andreas' strongest point. He looks to the inside, but doesn't go as deep as he possibly can. Maybe try to force Jacob Reed into a little bit of a mistake.
Doesn't get it out of him that time. And he's still got plenty of laps to go to try and see if he can shake him. So far, neither Andreas or Topi has really, at least as far as we've seen, I think, shaken Jacob Reed into anything major. Maybe he's been slightly off an apex here or there that we haven't seen, but he's been holding them off extremely well.
Agreed. However, that last lap out of turn number 12, he did slip up just a little bit. Here's Andreas with a run down the hill. There's just not a whole lot of brake zone there to make a huge lunge. So I think it's going to be cooperation out of turn number 4. Andreas was very good through this section. He showed the nose last lap right here through turn number 7. Not close enough this time. I still think it's towards that Melbourne hairpin after this S section, that tricky little chicane S section where Andreas is actually his strongest.
I agree. That's where we've seen him make multiple attempts. One of them actually worked in getting that second place back. Can he do something into there for the race lead? Don't know that he's close enough here, but like we said, he likes to come from a long ways back, and no, he's going to stay in line this time.
He was about that distance back when he made the move on Kortsanimi. So I agree with you, Joe. I think that he can send it from way far back. It's just a matter of what lap is he going to do it.
And is he going to get cooperation, too?
Yeah.
Because that driver ahead could try and shut the door. Of course, that's going to be bad news for both of them if they do that. And I'm sure Topi will try and take away that lead as the two sit at the side of the road if that winds up being the case. But we're not there yet. We'll see if desperation starts to reach this fight for the top spot when we get to 2 or 1 lap left to go. But the DH driver has done a great job being patient and waiting for those chances up to now.
You see something in the back of this screen here? What was almost 4 seconds of a gap is now down to 2.3 seconds. So something, a light switch flipped with Marco Sanfilippo, and he's got Togo Hisada hot on his heels. But you see the lead 3 right there. They have started to close it in. The more the front 3 battle, these two are just going to continue to close that gap.
You touched on this a little bit earlier, that some of these drivers will set up their car to be better at the end of the race. And I wonder if that's what Marco's done here. They got lap traffic that they're coming up to. That also might help give them a bit of time. I think it's Philip Urquhart in the 24 that they've just reached. The leaders went by in the Melbourne hairpin, but now this is going to be a bit of a tougher spot, unfortunately, for Marco and Togo to try and get by unless they get cooperation from Philip.
So our leader laid down the fastest lap of the race, and as I say that, P2 took that away, a 1:16.8. Let's look at Marco, a 1:16.9. So call it dead even between the two, still 2.2 seconds between that third and fourth gap. Dylan Freckleton still making his charge. He is yet to get by Jack Kent in that orange number 17, missing that front half of the wing there. Jack is doing a terrific job, hanging tough here today. I think he does have a wounded car and a very fast racer behind him as well.
Representing a home brand, if you will, in TVR on a home track for the UKNI driver, but not able to make it stick this time through. Looking for a good result here today, something to cheer for at home, and he manages to get Jack a little bit off the racing line, but Jack does a brilliant job getting the throttle down here, and I don't think he's going to be under threat this time.
See the run through that fast hairpin down there, turn number 4. Through this 5 and 6 section, up a slight uphill here to turn number 7. Little breathe off of the throttle. Looks like that understeer maybe affected Jack through that turn 7, just kind of like how I was talking about earlier in the race. The medium to high speed stuff, he's going to struggle with understeer. But once you get to this final sector through here, this last little chicane and these hairpins, he should be okay.
Oh, we had a pass for the lead here, and it might not be over as Jacob Reed tries to fight back. In fact, they're thinking about 3 wide, but they got lap traffic, and that puts the kibosh on things for Topi Kortiniemi. Still wheel-to-wheel. Hankel has the inside, but he doesn't have the grip. Reed will somehow cling to that lead by his fingernails.
I think that goes to show you that Andreas is eager to get up front. He's got a lot of pace, and look at the slipstream already making a move into the chicane. He takes away the lead, but now Reed's going to think about the exit. This is going into that turn 11 hairpin where Andreas is so strong. He moves to the defensive middle of the road. Jacob Reed taking the long way around. Look out for Kortiniemi trying to steal away second.
Couldn't quite make it happen. That was interesting there because Andreas looks so much faster in a straight line. There's a wild dive from Topi. Doesn't get by once again. Thankfully doesn't make contact either as Jacob had to give him space there at the apex.
I'm going to go back and take a look at exactly where all that developed. We've seen a lot of the momentum runs come down the hill into turn number 4. I also think that there's something different between Andreas' car and Jacob Reed because you look at the acceleration phase, all of a sudden Andreas' car takes off in that middle speed section where you really want the overtakes.
They can change the gearing on these things as well, so I wonder if maybe he's found a little trick on that around this circuit.
And trust me, folks, gearing can make the difference multiple tenths of a second per lap. You typically don't see it in the same type of cars because they make the same speed in the same areas. But if you have a good gear set that works at a specific racetrack, it is worth a lot of time.
Jacob Reed not out of the woods. Topi, as we've seen, is eager to at least try and pick up that second place. What a battle for the lead that was, though, between these 3 and behind them. They're trying desperately to catch up. That costs some time to this trio, and it's now down to about 1.2 seconds, but I saw San Filippo kind of in the background having a bit of a slide, so he might be trying too hard.
I shouldn't be surprised by these drivers. They're always clean up at the front, and they always put on incredible racing, but we don't typically see Andreas Henkel up here. That's a name that I'm familiar with, but he doesn't show up every single week. Jacob Reed is in here, in and out, typically here in this season, so we're a little bit more familiar with him. I am so impressed with how aggressive Henkel was able to be, as looks like Freckleton is finally going to make the move on Jack Kent into that turn 11 hairpin, secure what will be 9th place for that purple TVR machine. Back to my long-winded point here, I'm just very impressed with how respectful he is, how good he is in the 79s, and really the racing that we're seeing up front.
Boskus also got overtaken by Borel in that group there as we're checking in at the back of the field between Clapper, Gallus, and Friesen. Friesen gets the throttle down better and will defend that 15th place, but this now compromises Gallus. Here comes Clapper around the outside up into Redgate. He breaks extremely deep, and he is going to take him the long way around.
Nicely done from that Marlboro number 13 car.
Sorry, we got to go to the lead.
Yeah.
It's side by side once again. Hankel is on the outside as he is coming into Redgate. A nice move coming up around the outside of the final corner from Reed, which becomes the inside of the next turn. They're still wheel to wheel down the hill through the Craner curves and just getting his nose ahead. Hankel somehow holds on to that top spot once again, a little off into the dirt for Jacob Reed. That's going to make him slow. Topi Kortinimi thinks that maybe this is his chance. Coming up into McLean's, it's a blind right-hander here, and no, we can't hold on.
Great job from Jacob to leave the door open on the inside of the corner, just enough room for his competitor to have some clean air, and then he shut it on the corner exit there. I went back and looked what caused that huge stack up as Topi's getting really aggressive here into the chicane. Let's see if he's able to get the run out. No, it's not. So it was Andreas locking up going into this turn 11 hairpin. The strongest sector that he's in, he overstepped the limit. That's what caught him all up.
Interesting. And not only did it catch those two up, yeah, it's now got Sanfilippo and Hisada part of the fun.
It is an awesome fight. We've got 5 cars with 2 laps remaining, all arguing for the lead.
If Sanfilippo manages to steal this win, this will be absolutely astonishing. And he'll have to thank his lucky stars that these 3 have been fighting so hard. There you can see Togo Hisada at the back of the group as well. And we know he loves a good fight, so he'll make this one interesting if he can get into the mix. 2 laps to go. Hankel leads by about half of a second, but I don't think it's going to stay that way.
Togo Hisada just put in the fastest lap, a 1:16.5. That is almost 4/10 faster than our leader as just this scrap continues for what is a top 10. I think Jack Kent and that front wing damage are finally succumbing to these faster cars behind with a little bit more grip.
Certainly looks like he's struggling, and yeah, he's probably taken so much more out of those tires with him sliding across the surface over the course of the race. Behind them, Diaz still full of fervor there. Oh, and we have a swap around once again. Nope, not quite. Topi tried to overtake on Jacob Reed, but just can't seem to get the pass to stay put.
It's that fine line there in that turn 11 hairpin, and Andreas is looking in his mirror. He says, this is the biggest gap I've had all race. 1 lap remaining. Just put it together for the number 4 car.
Oh, and Boskus is off the course. I think so was Clapper there. Oh, his wheel has gone off as well. So things have gone awry in that fight. That's a shame. It was looking so fun back in that group. Jacob Reed now losing ground to Hankel as he's on the back foot trying to defend from the number 2 machine with half a lap to go. This is great news if you're Hankel.
I think it's going to come down to a mistake from our leader, but this second place fight is definitely on. Let's take a look at what happened to Jean-Francois Boskus here. Oh, Jack Kent had a huge shunt and then collected Boskus there, so definitely not his fault as the leader's going through the final chicane.
Just from out of left field. I don't think he was expecting that. Down into the braking. Jacob Reed thinks about it, but holding him off. Hankel will retain the lead. It's going to come down to the final hairpin at Goddard's if he wants to try it. A big defensive move from Andreas to cover that one off, and that works a treat because Hankel will take the win here today at Donington. What a fight that was.
That was a great race. I mean, I think that maybe the front half of it was a little tedious with the front of our pack. Gernot Friesche, we didn't mention this guy all day long. Started 7th, will finish in 7th place. Just kind of a little bit of a lonely race there for Gernot. But, man, talk about the last 10 laps where those front 3 were duking it out. And then Marco and Togo finally closed it in with those, call it 3 laps remaining. That was a fantastic 29 laps at Donington.
Ooh, Dylan Freckleton's not done. Is this for position? No, excuse me, that's a lapped car. That's Patrick Samaran, who's going to let him go. But Dylan, up 13, hardest charger of the whole field in this race, with Borrell and Diaz behind him, each up 10. They deserve a pat on the back for those fights.
Jason Clapper here looks like he's not done either. He's going to try to pass Mickey Friesen. Mickey's got a little bit of a lockup. Also, Daniel Gallus puts the power down. Nobody's going to change positions, but definitely thought about it there in that turn 12 Goddard's hairpin.
Those are our last drivers on the lead lap. They picked up a lot more cars there at the end. Some, unfortunately, from a wreck, not completing all 29 laps. But the first to complete those 29 laps was Andreas Henkel, who takes the win over Jacob Reed, and he had to earn this one. Topi Kortaniemi was third. Marco Sanfilippo can lose a few points to his competitor chasing him in the title fight. As Toga Hisada will wrap up your top five. Brandon Roseborough, bit of a quiet race down there in sixth. Same thing with Gernot Frische, as we highlighted at the end. Just bringing home a quiet seventh. It's Xavier Sanchez in at P8. Dylan Freckleton from 22nd to 9th, and Gerard Borrell from 20th to 10th.
Guillermo Diaz had a good run as well, up 10 positions himself to finish in 11th. Andrew Petty here in the 12th place position. Mickey Friesen in 13th, with Jason Clapper finishing 14th, up 9 positions. Daniel Gallus, 15th. Danilo Sanfilippo is going to be the first car to finish one lap down after having a little bit of an incident early on. Barry West back here in 17th. Philip Urquhart in 18th. Patrick Samaran in 19th. And Jean-Francois Boscus should be in 20th here. I think it shows Jack Kent, the first car, 2 laps down in 20th.
Indeed, he starts those who wound up with DNF here today, along with the remaining cars on our list. And this track, probably most well known for the wet race back in 92, where Senna ran away with it. I think that's the only thing missing here, is if we could have some rain for these Lotus 79s. That's the only improvement they could make to what was just an unbelievable race today.
That would be a pretty wild situation at Donington with these Lotus 79s, all that downforce, all that speed, and then basically have to jump on the brakes in that final sector through the chicane, those hairpins. It would be tense moments. I think that our fight up front would probably be even closer.
Hopefully we'll get some drivers coming and chatting to us, because I'd love to hear some opinions on that battle at the front. And likewise, from the mid-pack on down, we were not shy of action. We had all kinds of back and forth, some drivers making moves and then having to redo them all with incidents taking them off the circuit. But at least we saw some great battles. This makes me wonder, what was the bottom split like? Because this was just wild stuff. Here we go. We've got third place ready to chat with us. Topi Kortaniemi going to join us here in the booth. And Topi, congratulations on a podium today. It looks like you three up at the front were probably having the most fun you've had in some time. That was a crazy battle at the end.
Yeah, yes, that was a little bit too crazy at times. I just remember the moment that we were about to go 3 wide after the old hairpin, and then there was some lapped car in the left and decided to back off.
I don't blame you on that. Other than that, it seemed like a lot of the moves had to come down to some really ambitious dives in. Was that really the only hope to get the passes done?
Yeah, and I noticed that I ran a little bit more wing than the other guys, so the pass on the back straight before the chicane was not going to work out. I figured it out at some point, so I was trusting Andreas and Jacob to have a little melee, and maybe an opportunity could open up, but it didn't happen this time.
So you gain just a few points on Marco. He seems to be quite the rival for you this season. Are you looking forward to trying to take the title down to the last race with him?
I'm trying to get to all the races. Maybe after next week we get to use the drop week, so we're gonna see the actual situation in the championship. I think I'm down like 10 points or something.
That's a good point. That will change the complexion. Again, congratulations and thanks for the fun to watch today.
Hey, thanks, Joe.
That was Topi Kortaniemi in P3. One of the drivers that kind of was back and forth today was Barry West, and I believe we've got Joey Atterbury talking to the Big Cat.
Yeah, the Big Cat has officially joined us. First of all, congratulations on finishing here at Donington. I know it's not the result that you wanted, but you got to the end there.
Well, that's one of those things, Joey. I don't know, all week I haven't lost it at that corner. And then I don't know what happened. It was just like ice. I had full opposite lock on. One go, I didn't think I was going any faster than before. The back just went. I collected it, and then it went again. So it must be just the tyres. I don't know. Yeah, it just caught me out. And then Jack accused me of not holding my brakes, and I was just trying to gain control and get off the racing line. And he had plenty of time to react to me if he just saw what happened, but he didn't. And then, of course, I think there was an incident behind as well. So it all kicked off. And then I didn't think I had much damage until people started catching me up and overtaking. But yeah, when I look at the lap times, it was after lap 9, it was coming down nicely, 18.6. Coming down to low 18s, it would have done. Yeah. So hang on, I'm looking at Jason, not mine. But yeah, it's a good race considering, seeing what happened, but it could have easily been a top 10.
I think I can't put the accident to blame on you for sure. It just seemed like you maybe squeezed the throttle a little bit too hard. Those rears spun up, and you did the right thing in coming to a stop. It was unfortunate that others collected you. And then, yeah, Barry, you were missing the entire right side of the car. The Big Cat got a haircut.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
The entire right side of the car was gone, Barry.
Ah. So that'll account for the 2 seconds a lap then. Yeah. Well, it was the fastest after that was a 19. Yeah, couldn't get into the 18s. But the race before, very similar. I couldn't get through that chicane. Used to go through there, fly through there in third, but I had to go to second and just lost so much time then. But yeah, it was good fun fighting with Philip though towards the end. And he unfortunately made a mistake down at the old hairpin. And then Danilo caught me up. We had a little scrap for a while, which is close. We went through the chicane side by side, I think. But yeah, that was a good fight. But yeah, it's one of those races that to forget about, I think.
That's what happens in racing, but I'm so happy that you come out and race with us here every week. So thank you for doing that. Is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to?
Teammate Miguel Morland. Hope he he didn't do the race today, but he's doing well in the second division. And I'd like to give a shout out for an improved ex-teammate last year, Manning. He was doing really well in the race previous, so he had good pace here. So I don't know how he got on in the second split, but he's coming on in leaps and bounds, so he'll be up with us soon, I'm sure.
Awesome to hear. It is always a party when you bring your buddies. This was Barry West driving the number 15 car today. Not with the finish that he was hoping that he would like, a little bit faster on paper than what his result definitely showed today.
Yeah, it's no wonder with all that damage, but great job carrying on to bring it to the checkered flag. So we're going to close this one out with a big thank you to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, as well as to the team today, Daniel, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Next race is going to be Road America. That'll be Sunday, October 20th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. But be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.